Welcome back. Now, most colorists will tell you that you should grade each and every one of your shots very carefully, and of course in an ideal world they're correct. But we don't live in an ideal world, so here are some tips to help editors colour correct very quickly in DaVinci Resolve. You've probably heard this before, but the first thing you should do is enable colour management in the project settings. Simply change the colour science to DaVinci YRGB Colour Managed. That's it. The automatic colour management should take care of much of the rest. Now, if you're using the camera original media, Resolve will usually pick the most appropriate input colour space. But you can always override this or set it manually, especially if you're not using the original camera media. Simply right-click on a clip to choose the input colour space from a number of predetermined options. If you're not sure where to start, ask whoever shot the footage what their settings were. Make your best guess, or just choose the option to bypass colour management completely. When it comes to actually correcting the images, there are several features that can help you automatically balance a shot. Now, it's never a good idea to completely rely on these features, however, they can get you started very quickly. The first is this button in the primaries panel, Auto Balance. Simply click this button to have Resolve automatically maximise and balance the blacks and whites of a clip based on the current playhead position. Now, to be honest, I usually find this process to be quite aggressive, often clipping the whites and crushing the shadows a bit too much for my liking. However, those parts of the image can always be recovered using subsequent nodes. Unfortunately, it's never entirely clear what this process is doing. Although the node shows an auto balance process has been applied, none of the actual controls in the primaries panel has been adjusted. Nevertheless, it can be a useful first step to balancing a shot quickly. Another function related to this is the automatic shot matching function. Now again, whilst I wouldn't recommend that you rely on this all the time, it can be useful in bringing multiple images together and providing that consistency, at least visually speaking. To match one shot to another, simply select the clip you wish to adjust and right-click the clip you want to match it to, and choose Shot Match to this clip, and Resolve will do its best to match the shots. And another automatic feature can help you correct another very common problem, white balance. To neutralise the colour cast in a shot, simply select the white balance eyedropper and click on anything in the viewer that should be but isn't currently white to rebalance the overall shot. Something similar to this used to be a favourite feature for Final Cut Pro 7 users back in the day. Also, the lift and the gain controls also have a similar function. The pick black and pick white point controls allow you to pinpoint the parts of your shot that should be the darkest and brightest points respectively. Both will adjust the lift and gain controls appropriately to place the selected areas at black or white on the scopes, as well as removing any colour cast. Next up is a feature I use all the time, and that's the ability to be able to filter clips in the colour page. The Clips button at the top of the colour page is also a menu where you can choose which timeline clips to concentrate on, whether it's simply all the ungraded clips, clips containing a certain colour tag, flag, or even marker. I'm actually a big user of using keywords to organise my clips during the edit, and I like to take a similar approach for filtering clips when it comes to grading. For example, I can use my existing keywords applied in the edit page to reveal just the interviews in this timeline, or parts of the B-roll footage. To reset the filter, just choose All Clips. You can also create custom smart filters in a similar way that you would create a smart bin in the media pool. Don't worry if you're not making the most of keywords during the edit, because you can always apply them retrospectively when it comes to the grade. In the edit page, select the clips you want to keyword. Open the metadata panel, selecting the shot and scene group, and apply the keywords. You can then select them in the Colour Pages Clips menu. Another way of filtering clips in the colour page is to use groups, with the added advantage that you can use groups to grade multiple clips at the same time, and this can be very useful if you've got the same recurring clips throughout your edit. Here's an edit with several recurring interviews. Firstly, I'll filter the interview clips using the keywords I applied for the edit. I'll select all these clips, right-click and choose Add into a new group. Let's give this group a name so it's easy to identify. And selecting any of the group clips displays this green link icon to indicate which clips are part of that group. I can also filter the timeline based on the groups that I create. Although this is a really powerful feature, there are some limitations to using groups. Firstly, a clip can only be part of one group at a time. Secondly, I can only filter my clips by using one group. However, with the clips grouped, I can now grade them all together. In the Nodes panel, I can now choose two new options, pre-clip and post-clip. Using pre-clip, I can apply the initial balance required for all of these clips. Using clip lets me adjust each clip separately from the group, so I can apply specific changes to individual clips as needed. And post-clip again allows me to grade all the group clips, but as a separate process after the clip adjustments, useful for applying a final look to the group.